again, my friends. The careful observer will note that my Halloween decorations are still up, and at this point it's not because I can't let go of Halloween, it's that I'm lazy. It's like literally Thanksgiving week, and then I'll switch over to my Christmas decoration. So here we are. Today we are here to wrap up 3 thrillers that I read in the past couple weeks, and 2 of them I really enjoyed and 1 of them I hated, and you will see which one I hated, because I'm gonna do them in chronological order and of when I read them. And I liked the first 2, didn't like the last one. The books in no particular order currently are In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead, They Never Learn by Layne Fargo, and The One by John Mars. So let's get into it. I truly had the best of intentions getting into nonfiction November, that I was going to really just like hammer down and focus, that I wanted to like catch up on the October reads that I had planned, and I haven't even filmed my October wrap up yet. Maybe that's what I should have been filming instead of this. It'll happen eventually. It's okay. My thoughts will be the same then. And instead, I like kind of got into like, I don't even want to say a reading slump, just like a energy slump where I didn't have the energy to put into learning new things. Not even to like really enjoy like super emotional, I don't know. I needed a thriller. I needed something that did all of the excitement for me, because I had nothing to offer. And so that's how I ended up. The first book that I'm talking about is In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife, by Ashley Winstead. I picked this up after I saw Books and Lala say that it was like her favorite thriller of the year, and she reads a ton of thrillers, and I was in the mood for a thriller. And I hadn't heard anyone talking about this yet, and it's like dark academia, so that appealed to me. And then I like read this in basically a day, I think. Like basically one sitting, and then so I got some more books from the library after that, that I'd heard really good things about. So kind of marathoned 3 thrillers in a week. So I thought I'd wrap them up together. So the first book, In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife, it's about 6 friends who were part of like a friend group of 8 college students whenever they were at college, and it switches between the perspective of Jessica Miller, which is kind of like, I think, the most like generic name you could possibly come up with. It's like split between her in the present time going to this like school reunion, and then I think it's only from her perspective. Yeah, going back like at multiple time points, like whenever they were like going through school, you know, from the beginning that one of the girls in their friend group died while they were at school, and that one of the other people in the friend group were blamed for it. But then they get pulled into this school reunion, and the brother of the killed friend has put it in his head that like he doesn't think that the person that they accused of killing his sister actually did it, but that one of the other people in the friend group did do it. And so that's kind of like what you're figuring out, is that mystery. This really worked for me, both from like a thriller aspect, and I liked the characters as well. Not that they were all like great likable characters, but that they were, I felt like, especially considering how many characters there were that were like about the same age and about the same background, that they were really well differentiated, that there was enough going on besides like just like the one mystery of like who killed her, that it was very gripping throughout. I think I gave this like a pretty high rating too, like a 4. I gave this and the next book a 4, which is pretty unheard of for me for thrillers, just because I feel like I really enjoy reading thrillers, but at the end of it, it's like, okay, that was fine. But I really enjoyed the characterization in this, and I felt like the main character was interesting. I mean, it's always kind of hard to talk about thrillers because you don't want to give anything away, but it really played up like the interesting parts of like the university, that there's like a homecoming parade and things that I haven't seen like talked about a lot in books, is like the Greek system, like fraternity and sorority rushing. And like I went to LSU where that was a very big thing, and like definitely understand like the hierarchy of not only like that people in the Greek system like definitely look down on people who are not in the Greek system, but then that there's also like a hierarchy between those about like which ones are the best, and like that competition between people. I thought it was really good all around. And it's like definitely the twist, there's not like, I mean, the twist is kind of like you're learning more about the characters, and so like as you're reading it, it like makes more and more sense, rather than there being like a huge thing out of like left field at the end of the book. Is like you just like slowly learn more and more, and like it's almost like you know, like a Agatha Christie book where it's like they go like character by character, and they're like, was it you? And then they like figure out why it couldn't have been that person, and they just like go down in the line further and further until there's only one character left to accuse, which sounds kind of formulaic, but no, I really liked it. I saw that her next book is like not a thriller, which is interesting, because I thought she did a great job. Morally gray characters, complex characters, unlikable but understandably unlikable characters. Interesting. Yeah, I recommend this if you're like in a thriller mood, and especially like if you don't like stuff in a university setting, then you probably aren't gonna like this because it's like very university. But yeah, we started off strong. My second 4-star read of the month was The One by John Mars. And this one, I think I've like heard about it for a while, but I knew that Nakia from Nakia's Hideaway liked this a lot, and that made me really want to pick it up, because I feel like she has good taste, and she's pickier than I am. So it's like, you know, if she likes it, then it's really got to be good, because I'm pleased with with much less, because I'm not gonna say I have garbage taste, but like a thriller, as long as you got something going for me, I'll probably finish it. But this one was really interesting too, because also not one that's really like a plot twisty kind of thing. So if you're not familiar, The One is kind of set in this like alternate speculative universe where they have figured out that there's like a soulmate gene, and that you can get testing done and find out like who your soulmate is. It's like a, you know, like an ancestry.com like DNA thing, but for figuring out who your soulmate is. And so the story follows like 5 different people who have done this test, and like the various ways that that can go really wrong to know to know who your soulmate is, and just the moral implications of everything. Because it's like people will get the soulmate test like if they're single and, you know, like want to be in a relationship. They will get it if they're already married and like want to be like, you know, like, I know we're soulmates, but let's just do it because the test is going to confirm that. And then they find out that they're not soulmates per the test. People will do it and, you know, think that they're heterosexual and get a same-sex soulmate. Interesting. They will get a match and it'll be someone in a different country that they, you know, don't really have access to, like meeting and chatting up before, you know, committing to something. But one of the storylines is from a serial killer who gets the soulmate test, and so then is like trying to find love, a serial killer finding love in his life. So it's truly like just like a thrilling atmosphere. And the chapters are also short. There's like 5 storylines, I think, 5 or 6, and you get like just a couple of pages for each one, and then you cycle to the next one. And I felt like all of the storylines were interesting. So like each one ends on like kind of like a mini cliffhanger, which made this like very, very readable, which I think is like exactly what I was in the mood for, was something that I could get through quickly and that was very gripping. Have I thought about it a whole lot after finishing it? No, but I mean, that's kind of like how thrillers are in general for me. That's not something that I necessarily need from it in order for it to have been enjoyable and to think it was worthwhile. Like this is, I mean, I feel like everyone says it's like Black Mirror-esque, but like it truly is, that there's, you know, that weird, you know, like how could this technology have implications beyond like what we've already, what we wanted it to do. And I think that's a good ongoing question. I know that he has a book too that's about like self-driving cars, but I think it's like a question that we should be asking, is like, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. It doesn't mean you should. Like whenever I was like a teenager and first saw like those like MIT robot dogs, I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. They look like real dogs. And now I'm like, oh, those are tools for the police state. Like we shouldn't have been doing that. And like, as far as, you know, like facial recognition stuff and, you know, the racial bias and facial recognition stuff, and just, it's complex. It is complex. So just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. And I did think that some of the like facts about like how the soulmate stuff worked was like very convenient. Like only one of the storylines was like someone who fell in, like had a soulmate that was in a different country, and like there's like an aside like 75% through the book that's like, oh yeah, it's super interesting that apparently like your soulmate usually lives like within like 100 miles of you, because it's like that's what the rest of the storylines are. It's like, oh, you're my soulmate and you also live in London. So some of it's like a little bit convenient, but not in a way that's like upsetting. Like I don't know. Yeah, it was good. It was good. At the end of it, I'm not gonna say what happens at the end of it, but like I said, it's like more about, you know, looking at this world and the role of technology and the nature of relationships and the idea of having a soulmate at all. And yeah, just like personal complexities that aren't black and white like the science would appear that it should be. Like it should be like, oh, that's my soulmate, okay, let's get hitched, and like that be the end of it. But that there's a lot of other factors in play, especially with like family and just life stuff. So recommend The One by John Mars. Y'all, I didn't like this book. Everyone likes this book. I did not like They Never Learn by Layne Fargo. It's interesting that this book came out this year, because, you know, like it's like a book takes a while to write, and it came out in the same year as, did Promising Young Woman come out this year? Last year? There might be like some light spoilers for either of those for Promising Young Woman, the movie, or They Never Learn, like if you've seen one and not the other, because I think I'm gonna like mention how they like compare. So if that's not something you're interested in, just know I didn't like this like this book for similar reasons that I didn't like Promising Young Woman. So They Never Learn, also a dark academia book. It's set Gorman University, which is you know, seems like a private university, and you follow two narrators. One is an English professor who is a serial killer, but she only kills people who have like wronged women, who have like committed usually like, you know, sexual assault or you know, were abusive in some way. And so it's following her while she's doing that, while she's also like trying to get this like fellowship to go study in Cambridge of like her English poet of choice. And then you also follow the storyline of a freshman at university while she's like going through school, and she's like, seems like it's hard for her to make friends. Her roommate is kind of like the worst, that she's like the roommate's kind of the worst because she's like, she knows that like the character Carly is bisexual and is like flirty with her and like overly intimate with her, but then it like plays very like hot and cold and seems to be doing it to get the attention of like this guy that she has a crush on. But you know, Carly still cares for her best friend at school, and a sexual assault happens to her, and it's hard to talk about what I don't like about this book without really spoiling it. You would think that would be good. So I don't mind that she's a serial killer who kills men who who committed, you know, horrible crimes against women. I have no issue with that. And honestly, I did prefer that over Promising Young Woman, because Promising Young Woman doesn't even like commit to that. Like it's kind of the same kind of storyline, except for like in Promising Young Woman, she like hunts these men down, but then just gives them like a stern talking to, like a little lecture, and that's pretty bloodless. Don't love that. But what I don't like about both of these is that I feel like they're so reductionist about gender, and also this is where it might be like a little bit of a spoiler, is that there's like no good men in either of them. There's like the nice guy who ends up, this is totally a spoiler. There's so just, you know, just skip until you don't see this book up anymore if you don't want to hear. But there's no good guy. There's like a nice guy in both Promising Young Woman and They Never Learn, who ends up being a bad guy. And it's so, I just hate how they do it, because it's almost saying like, well, shame on women for ever trusting any man. Like, it's actually a woman's fault for ever trusting men, because if there's literally no good men, literally none, then it's the woman's fault for even trusting men in the first place. Like, just don't do it, which isn't the case. Like, it's like, if you say that all men are bad, then saying being attracted to men is like an inherently bad thing and puts the blame back on women. Like, you think you're doing something progressive, but you're really not. It's truly regressive, like Puritan kind of stuff. Like, I just, no, no. Also, it just, there are so many times that nice guys let women down whenever they like don't, when they don't speak up for women, whenever they don't like call out their friends on their bullshit, and you know, all that kind of stuff. Like that truly is like an issue that even men who think they're good do bad things and like benefit from, you know, being part of the patriarchy and like benefit from the whole system. But whenever you write a story where all of the men are like comically bad, then you completely miss out on the opportunity to actually make commentary on that, like all the little ways that men let women down. And it's not because they're like, you know, comic book villains. It's just because it's easier, and it's easier to not say anything. So that's disappointing because, yeah, both of the nice guys and They Never Learn and Promising Young Woman end up being like comically bad, like just truly villainous and like overly openly evil where it's like that's not the main issue. It's about all the insidious stuff that keeps these systems in place, you know? Does that make sense? So neither of them like were able to make commentary about that. And I think that's where it's truly lacking. Like saying, because the end point of this is just like, don't trust any men. Just don't trust any men. And like, I don't think that's a good takeaway, because it felt like this, I felt like depended so much on that social commentary and allegory as its like whole thriller component. Like it didn't really have a lot else going on other than that social commentary, and I just felt like the social stuff was just a huge miss, so I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars because like I don't think it was like, it was readable, and I was just like the whole time I was like, please don't let this end like Promising Young Woman, because it so misses the point. And like, this is why I don't read like social commentary stuff that's supposed to be social commentary, because like everything is political and everything reflects the political values that it was written in the society that it was written in. So when you go to write something that's just about like, that's like allegorical, that's so, you know, heavy-handed, then you better get it right. And I didn't think that this got it right. But no offense to anyone who likes this, because it's like mostly everyone. Like I don't I don't think that I've seen anyone else not like this. But I hated it, and I hated Promising Young Woman. So I didn't hate reading it though. That's why I gave it 2 stars. I didn't hate reading it. It's just how it ended prevented me from having any positive feelings about it. So those were 3 thrillers. 3 thrillers that I read in November instead of reading my nonfiction November books. We're so happy. Bye-bye.